The Hunter Biden and Ukraine controversy is getting deeper. Fox has learned a career State Department official overseeing Ukraine policy raised alarms about Biden's work. This is back in 2015, but was shot down. George Kent gave his testimony to House investigators this week. To discuss, I'd like to welcome Republican Arkansas Congressman Rick Crawford. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good to be with you again.
This is a bombshell and a situation that many in the media said nothing to see here. Vice President Biden said nothing to see here, but now maybe there is something to this.
Well, what this points to is the fact that this is going on in secret, continues to take place in secret, and Adam Schiff and his allies leak what they would like for the American people to know that supports their narrative. And then this kind of stuff comes out, and it's like, well, this points to the reason why if we're going to do this, let's do it in the light of day. Let's go ahead and put articles of impeachment on the floor if you think you can make that case. We'll vote for it, and we'll bring in, we'll get subpoena power just like the minority party is supposed to have, just like happened during the Clinton impeachment, just like happened during the Nixon impeachment. And let's do this thing properly. And I think what you'll find is, number one, the American people won't support that. Number two, even if we were able to pass articles of impeachment onto the Senate, they wouldn't ratify that. They would not convict. So this is all a big dog and pony show.
Well, in the meantime, though, it feels like the tables are turning also in this big dog and pony show. And you do have to wonder, there was a lot of talk about maybe the president trying to influence or get dirt on a political rival, but should any former vice president or president be off limits if there is maybe evidence to suggest that there was abuse during their time in office? I mean, this thing with Hunter Biden's gone down a path I don't think the Democrats want to see it go down.
Well, that's why they're trying to steer clear of that topic. But the reality is that the president's responsible for trying to secure elections. And the way he secures elections in 2020 is to look back at 2016. And that means rooting out corruption. If the Ukrainians played a role, if the Russians played a role, then certainly he should be asking those questions. I don't think that's off base at all. And so do you want the president to secure our elections or do you not? And if he doesn't, then you can point to the fact that, well, the president's not securing the elections. Which is it? You can't have it both ways. And I think the president is right to take steps to secure our election.
Right.
But in order to do that, he's got to look back at what happened in 2016.
All right, speaking of President Trump, right now trying to quell tensions in Syria, this after Turkish forces apparently have already broken the ceasefire agreement.
They're back to the full pause. We have ISIS totally under guard. Turkey is also guarding separately. They're watching over everything. So you have the Kurds who we're dealing with and are very happy about the way things are going.
So the president also saying Europe is willing to take ISIS prisoners. So tentative, fragile. I mean, Representative Crawford, what's the message here? Where are we going with this?
Well, the question is asked is, can we trust Erdogan? And the answer, I think, is no, we can't. But what Erdogan can trust is the fact that our sanctions can decimate their economy. And what our president is doing is he's taking the steps to take diplomatic and economic steps to isolate Turkey. Let's not forget the fact that Turkey is technically a NATO ally. And so there are some constraints against us to some degree as well. But we also need the help of the Europeans in that regard. And so if we're going to implement sanctions, which I think we should as a response to this, then we're going to need the help of the Europeans as well. But bottom line is, and he referenced this in his letter to Erdogan, the sanctions worked. That's how we brought that American pastor back, is through the action of sanctions. And Erdogan does not want those sanctions placed, and so I think he's going to be sensitive to that.
President Trump, though, it seems to be saying that no one, even he's not completely sure how this is going to play out. Is there any way? I mean, I don't think you were 100% supportive of the actions with respect to the advisors we had there. Right. What's the ultimate way of maybe the next solution, if you will?
Well, you know, barring some sort of a military engagement and keeping in mind that they are a NATO ally, that's going to be difficult.
Right.
So I think we have to rely on a diplomatic solution and exert as much pressure as possible economically and hope to affect that way. If it came to a military involvement, certainly we're in a better position than they are. But again, we have to rely heavily on our European allies in NATO. And then we have to revisit this issue of, does Erdogan, does Turkey, under Erdogan's direction, do they need to remain a NATO ally? That's another question.
Well, that's another big question that people have had for some time. I do want to get to this, though. Kamala Harris, she rolled out a $100 billion plan. She says she wants to counter President Trump's war on farmers. You have a state with a large rural area, a lot of farmers. Is President Trump letting them down?
No, he's not. I hear from farmers all the time. This is action that was necessary. It needed to happen. And we're in a position now to have a much stronger hand in dealing with China. The problem with China is, as you know, since their accession into the WTO, they've not been held to account. They continue to float their currency. They continue to require technology transfers as a condition of doing business. They counterfeit products. Any number of things you could point to that create an unlevel playing field for us here in the United States, and yet they continue to claim status as a developing economy. And I just don't think that's fair, and the president is finally calling them out.
Congressman, thank you very much. We covered a lot of ground. We always appreciate it. Thanks.
You bet. Thanks.